Hello everyone, I'm Leontien and this is Andrea, and we are going to be talking about different use cases of providing access to web archive material. I am coming from this from a very much of a practitioner perspective, so providing the data, and Andrea's the researcher here. So I'm going to provide a little bit of context, and then Andrea's going to highlight some of the work that she's been doing. So I feel a little bit naughty for saying this term, but I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about the designated community, which some of you in the room may be familiar with. It's from the OAIS model, and it's basically a term that highlights that you have to designate a community when you're providing access as an institution. In practice, this doesn't really work. I did some work with the National Archives in the UK, and we looked at this term and how we could apply it. And what really quickly happens is that you exclude certain people because you make certain assumptions about groups. This sketch from Jenny Mitchum at the DPC very much highlights this, because there's a very sad PDF on the side because he's not invited to the party. But at the top, there's also a quote which came from a Twitter discourse and was highlighted by Andy Jackson, which is "Access is what we are preserving, but for whom?" And that's very much highlights when you make stuff accessible on the web, it's sometimes very unclear who's actually accessing it. If you're making it available to the general public or to everyone, who is this group actually, and what do they actually want to do with the data? Again, leading into those assumptions that you make. So I did a bunch of work with David Underdyne, and instead of thinking about it as specific communities, we thought about it as what kind of use can we provide to archives, or to the data, basically. So the reader is the more traditional one, so that's someone who wants to do more of the close reading, so wants to go into archives and looks at web archives like page by page, wants to do more of the detailed work. And then on the other spectrum, we've got the computational user, which is people who just want data. They just want data sets, and they want to do computational stuff over the data sets. The group that is really interesting is a group that kind of sits in between that, these two groups, called the digitally curious. So these are people who are aware that there are computational skills or computational usage out from web archives, but don't really know how to apply it. So they want to try it, but how do you provide that type of use case? So that's the three audiences. So the work that we've done together has been on the Archive of Tomorrow project, which was a project funded by the Wellcome, which looked at archiving health information online. As part of this, we provided a data set to Andrea. This data set is now available through the Data Foundry, which is run by the National Library of Scotland. And basically, it provides the metadata that goes with this collection. So it's like all the crawl data. There's over 3,000 targets in it, and it's available in JSON and as a CSV file. But the thing that was most valuable, actually, to Andrea was us filling in a data sheet, and this has already been highlighted, this work, but there's now also a toolkit available that Helena Byrne, who's at the conference, has worked on, and it's been really, really helpful, and Andrea also highlighted that was very helpful with her because it provided context for her, because she'd never worked with web archives before. So highly recommend, if you provide a data set of your web archives, to fill in a data sheet, because they're great. So over to you.
Thank you. So I received this JSON dataset with the data sheets, and we could have stopped there, because that's for the computational user who does not need any further guidance. It works from there. But what is this transition zone between the two? Those who have some digital skills, perhaps they are not able to write the script themselves, and it's another end of this middle spectrum is who need a user interface, okay? And my task was to try to figure some solution in between. And we again has to highlight that due to the legislation in the UK, we are not allowed to distant read the Web Archive collections itself. So I had to work only with the metadata and try to do experiments with that. And after the unfortunate events, we all know what happened with the UK Web Archive. The metadata is what we had to work with further. It also highlights the importance of creating metadata and accessible datasheets for that in the web archiving field. So I ran a few experiments to familiarize myself with the metadata and tested different methods, classification methods. But in the end, I settled on a workflow where I converted the JSON files to CSV and extracted only ID, description, and URL fields. Then, because it's metadata, I had to reparse what I could find in this set of data. And I needed a link checker to validate what was alive at the time of the research. And then I settled on using newspaper 3K Python package to parse the information which was available based in this collection. It provided me with keywords and summaries to enrich and enhance this existing data set of descriptions. Then I had some, inclination to experiment with LLMs, so I also added a bit of LLM-based summaries generated based on these keywords and descriptions, and I also ran a few tests of checking what type of classifications we can do with it. And luckily, because it was a small data set, I could manually also label it. So now we have available manual labels for later machine learning in this enhanced data set. And I could have stopped here because it's still okay for the computational user. It's available via the National Library of Scotland's Data Foundry and also on the GitHub page, which is connected to it based on my fellowship. But we wanted to go further and provide the middle ground of testing these scripts with users. So I recreated these scripts I run to create this metadata turned data data set, and created with very detailed markdown Jupyter notebooks for that, which is also available on this GitHub page. A user can run it locally. It's accompanied by a detailed README and running instructions. And also it's available in Binder, so you can open it online. But the next stage, which is coming soon, is a very basic user interface to add to it. We are doing it with using Voila, a platform which turns Jupyter notebooks into web applications, which will result that if the user wants to choose another data set, which is not the archive of tomorrow, then they can just upload the JSON, and the CSV with this extracted structure comes back, and they can experiment with it. And also we added a few visualizations to it in order, because the aim of the whole project was to have a glimpse of what's in this collection, instead of going through one by one, either the metadata rows or the catalog itself when it is going to be available. So these visualizations just provide an idea of the content, what's in the data set. And about the reader, it's okay, we discussed it yesterday that you have to further segment who the reader is. But my general approach is that the web archive is a haystack, a massive haystack, and the reader is just dropped in the middle of it. So my idea is that they don't necessarily know what they are looking for. So I try to flip the approach here. So instead of asking the general reader to come in with a research question, because they are not researchers, I propose to use this pre-filtered metadata to help them discover the stories which are hiding inside. Oh, sorry.
No.
I steal your sign.
No, it's right.
So the basic idea was that if you can uncover even a small story in the collection, that becomes a gateway for the user. And a story to tell is a story to explore, and it makes the archive feel more human, more relevant, and more approachable. Would you like to stop here and tell about that?
Shall I quickly
Yeah.
highlight that side? So very quickly just highlight the site. So this is when we just wanted to show what, like, when we think of readers, what they would use normally as an interface. Sadly, the UK Web Archive is not currently accessible, but a lot of web archives have a very similar interface where there's a search box and you can like search for stuff, and if you type in stuff like Prime Minister, there's like 1 million results, which is quite funny. But the one thing that I did want to highlight that is quite useful is the topics and themes. So these are curated collections. Archive of Tomorrow was part of one of these collections. But yeah, this very...
And just, our approach was just to build on these existing themes and topics and find more narrowed stories which can highlight the main parts of the collection, or main stories hiding in it. And to exemplify this storytelling approach for the general reader, I'd like to briefly introduce another project, which is part of my fellowship at the National Library of Scotland. And this is working with another collection, not the Archive of Tomorrow, but we applied very similar metadata filtering methods to find the stories in it. This is this one running title, it's Scotland on the Internet, it's current and unpublished curated collection, but we are working with this. It contains information on organizations, businesses, communities available in Scotland. And we used it to inspire some artistic and data-driven storytelling. So I teamed up with Dorsey Kaufman, who is a multimedia visual artist, and a group of data visualization students from the University of Edinburgh to create a series of works that interpret this collection in a tactile, visual, and some engaging ways. And it culminated in designing an exhibition, which will be running from the 3rd to 16th of November. It will be in Edinburgh in InSpace, which is a venue designed for digital storytelling combined with physical exhibitions. And alongside the artworks, we also provide those prototype interfaces which I designed and conduct visitor surveys and focus groups with the visitors. And the goal here is to move away from telling users how to use the archives and instead explore together with them. So what makes sense to them, what is intuitive, what resonates. So we are building on curiosity and creativity rather than instructions to understand this very versatile group, the reader, from the bottom up. It's a very experimental, creative approach. It might fail, but at least it's something new than what we tried so far. For the other groups, for the computational user and for the digitally curious, we have the traditional method, turning metadata into data and experimenting with coding.
Yeah, that was... Yeah.
Oh, thank you.